Hitman has been one of my long-time favorite franchises across a lot of my gaming experience. I grew up at the early days of it being on PC, and when it came to PS2 in all of its very limited draw range glory, it was something that really appealed to the way I played games. Obviously coming from games like Tenchu and similar style of stealth murder games is probably the easiest way to call it. Um, it was about kind of finding that perfect run, finding the perfect way for the guards to move, for you to complete your objective, and just realistically make it through the mission in the best way possible. Now, it's had its ups and downs. I mean, Blood Money to me is still the best game in the series, and I know that there's a lot of back and forth over that, especially with the new shooting engine of the new game. And Absolution was its absolute worst. It just took everything that made Hitman unique and either watered it down or turned it into nothing. So the return to form that Hitman, just titled Hitman, as like the reboot has been interesting. So what the first one came out, they remastered the first one in the engine of the second one, and now the third one is out. And if you own those previous games, they're all in the same engine, so you can access all those missions having bought it. So it's borderline like almost a season pass. I don't know how else to describe it. That said, if you have been keeping up to it to this point, it just continues the new iteration of story of 47, Diana, and all the different things that happen in the organization that cause all these world politics and world intrigue. And I don't know, I've never been convinced that the new story is inherently for the better, just because it really does try to go big and broad. It really goes. It's always had those kind of moments of, you're a ruthless assassin, genetically engineered assassin, specifically designed to kill, people for money. It's always been a pretty simple premise. Now it's political intrigue, and you've got old friends and colleagues, and suddenly Diana's not who she was, and like I'm just not convinced the changes are for the better, unless you consider that IO have been pitching for the James Bond game. And then if you view it from the point of view of, it's a James Bond game resume, then suddenly it all makes sense. And of course, they got the Bond license now, so they'll be releasing a James Bond game. And realistically, all they're going to do is transfer 3 across. It's going to be a very simple transition. But the main thing the 3 does, I think, compared to the previous ones, is all of the individual levels had their own little things going on, their own stories going on. The old one, you had the opera, and it was the great opera singer he was loved by this child abuser, and you had to kill them both. And they all had their own little bits of intrigue, or their own little universes and stories. And this one kicks up, and the best example of this is probably Dartmouth. It's not Dartmouth, but it's something like that. I always forget the name, because Dartmouth was a prison. I'm pretty sure. Doesn't matter. And basically, it's a an Agatha Christie novel. On top of having to kill who you have to kill, there's also like an Agatha Christie novel that you can use. Don't get me wrong, you can use it to your advantage to take out your target. But even in and of itself, it's a great little set piece. Is it a good Hitman game though? It still has a lot of the core mechanics there, the way that costumes work, and it emphasizes you being better at stealth, and not even necessarily stealth as in to sneak up and stab someone, but to kill someone without it looking like you've ever been there. And so at its core, it's still a pretty similar game that it always was. There's no real changes to that formula outside of a couple of tweaks to certain things, and the shooting is a lot better, even compared to Blood Money, as much as I'd hate to admit it. But I just feel like each one of these levels, while they're much more detailed and much more complex in certain ways, they just feel less. I don't know. I don't enjoy them as much. Again, I'm going to keep using Blood Money as an example because I consider it the best in the series. All of their maps, while can be big and small, depending. You've got South American vineyards, and you've got like suburban streets in America, and you've got French opera houses, Viennese opera houses. What doesn't matter? European opera houses. It's spread. There was like 17 maps, I'm pretty sure. Some similar number of maps in Blood Money, and yet in Hitman 3, 5 maps. And one of those is Chongqing, which is not even really, I would say, what you would consider a standard Hitman map. Now, if you were to buy, say, the pack of them for $150 and it had all these levels, maybe it's worth it. But if you've been paying for it year on year, I just feel like if they're going to go down this route of kind of episodic content, which they've definitely tried to do even before they were emancipated from Square Enix. Was it Square Enix? Yeah, or Warner Brothers, or whoever they emancipated themselves from. I feel like that was where they were going down, and then they've kind of backtracked a little bit on it. I would rather them either go one way or the other. Is have episodic kind of seasonal content on an existing engine, and then like switch that into or switch that into like a 3-year development cycle and give us 15 maps and give us all the like. It just at the moment it feels like they're releasing content as soon as they make it, which is great. But I just feel like the way that they're selling the game doesn't help that. However, that said, it won't be a problem for a while. I'm pretty sure with what's happened in the end of 3, they can come back to it, but they don't need to for a while. They're going to be making the Bond game anyway, so they're going to be busy as it is. I guess the question becomes: is Hitman 3 worth checking out? Look, it has a lot of the core gameplay elements that you'd like from a Hitman game. It does this unique thing with the stages now, where they're kind of their own self-contained stories that are a bit more in depth, and it plays fine. Like it plays the thing. It's a question of value for money. Like if you've enjoyed the other two and you get this at a reasonable price, great, do that. If you can buy like a bundle pack with all of them, great, do that. But I just, again, I feel like they need to kind of figure out how they want to release these games. And once they figure that out, I'm sure they'll be great, but they won't be for a while. The ending was pretty, you don't need to do it. And then they've got the Bond game coming now, so it's not going to be anytime soon. If you're a fan of the old ones, check out Blood Money. But for now, I would definitely say it's a recommended. Recommended to check it out if you're a fan of these kind of Hitman games, or even these slow, stealthy, like I don't want to say murder simulators, but like assassin simulators. It's still a very good game on that front.